Welcome to the Bible Breakdown. It's a black man and woman in America who no longer identify as believers. This show contains adult languages, themes, and isn't meant for children. As black people, we respect the history of the black church in America, but its current state is massively abusive, and we think the Bible might be part of the problem. Listen and let us know what you think. Peace. Welcome back to another episode of the Bible Breakdown. I'm your host, Kat.
And I'm TK.
Hello, TK. Yes, for our listeners, TK is my co-host, and we are going to read 3 chapters of the Bible today from the New Revised Standard Version. You don't want to say anything to the people, TK?
It's good to be back. It's been a while, even though I'm not sure that will necessarily show on the user or the listener's end, but yeah, it's been a while.
Do you want to tell the people what we talked about last time? People, like, seriously, we recorded 2 months ago. It's crazy.
Well, last time me just looking at the Bible, we talked about the struggle for succession because King David was old and advanced in his years, and he needed somebody to come up and...
Oh, that's right. He had that girl cuddle with him, and they went out of the way to be like, he never slept with her. They were just cuddling. That was weird. Oh, it's all coming back to me.
Solomon succeed him?
Okay.
Yeah, I was asking. Solomon succeeds David, right?
Yes. Okay. Oh, excuse me. His mama played a big part in that.
Yeah, it was some
Bathsheba.
It was some real Game of Thrones politicking.
Because that made me think too. She might have orchestrated the death of her husband. Like, they kind of credited David with that, but in this scene where she gets more lines, to me it's like, man, Bathsheba was probably in on that.
Yes, and then he consolidated his reign by, was it sleeping with somebody? Sleeping with the girl? Another girl?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Do not refuse me. Let I be. Oh, yeah. Oh, because what's his name asked to be the wife, and then Solomon got mad. Yeah. Even though he didn't even really care about it. That was a weird move.
And then lastly, Solomon made a prayer for wisdom, and that is kind of, because isn't he called Solomon the Wise or something?
That's what he's kind of supposed to be known for, is wisdom. Even though in all his wisdom, he never got the bright idea to free the slaves. Like, that was even in in First Kings 2. There's a whole story about like this guy going to look for his slaves.
Yeah, I
think slavery's bad, and you're not going to find the Bible to tell you that.
Yeah, slavery is terrible. I don't have anything other than to agree with that. It's not a good thing.
Thank you. People try to still defend the Bible. It's coming more and more clear to me just how much people don't read this and how it just got a head start. Like, I think it's important for people to remember that for the first 1,500 years of what we know as modern Western Christianity, there were no publications of the Bible. It was just in these scripts that, like, the Vatican had.
I was talking to somebody not too long ago about how weird it is that the Vatican has all these documents or whatever, but the public doesn't have access to it.
Yeah, artifacts, lots of, and just how in collusion they were with the transatlantic slave trade and the Nazis. Like, if they have good PR, but they're not the good guys. I suggest watching The Young Pope. It really kind of gives you the clue into the game. But, and I was thinking how weird it is that, like, Christians wear crosses. I know it's been brought up before, but it's... Yes. So, a lot of Christians like to say that Jesus was killed by the Jews, but according to the book they worship, he was killed by the Roman government. And their symbol was the cross.
Which is always what confused me, because from a kid, I always remember him being killed by the Roman government.
Yeah, if you have any kind of reading comprehension skills, he was assassinated by the Roman government, and their favorite way of assassinating people, which is to put them up on a cross, which is why their symbol was a cross to instill fear wherever they went. So it would be kind of like if a black man like was lynched in the US, and to remember him we wore Confederate flags or nooses. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird. It just goes to show how strong like marketing and branding are.
I say this all the time. I just think people just be doing shit. They don't really think about it. And
well, I would like any Christians who might be listening, like hate listening to this podcast right now. You're wearing the the other team's merch. Like, you're wearing the merch of the guys who killed your guy.
Okay.
You should know that. Like, that was a symbol before Jesus for like hundreds of years, and it was of the Roman government, the Roman Empire. And I'm a big history buff. If you study history, the Roman Empire just evolved into what we now know as the Vatican.
Yeah. Although they like to say that Rome was, destroyed.
Yeah, like the fall of the Roman Empire, but it's like there's still a place named Rome. Like they don't have an empire anymore, but I think by the nature of empires, they all have to fall. But I think they were able to kind of keep their hand in the game with the Catholic Church, who was, I don't know if they still are, it used to be the world's largest landowner.
I would agree with that.
Thank you. It feels good to agree. We argue a lot on this podcast.
Definitely did the last episode I listened to. For the first 30 minutes.
Let's pray for a spirit of agreement while we dive into 1 Kings 4.
All right.
Okay. Solomon's administrative officers. I'm sorry, I'm going to just check one time to make sure I'm recording. And I am. Beautiful. 1 Kings 4. Solomon's administrative officers. King Solomon was king over all Israel, and these were his high officials. Oh, good. Azra, son of Zadok, was the priest. Elihoreph and Ajah, sons of Shisha, were secretaries. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was recorder. Benaniah, son of Jehoiada, was the command of the army. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Azariah, son of Nathan, was over the officials. Zabud, son of Nathan, was priest and king's friend. Ashar was in charge of the palace, and Adoniram, son of Abda, was in charge of the forced labor. Solomon had 12 officials over all Israel who provided food for the king and his household. Each one had to make provision for 1 month in the year. These were their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker in Mazkah, Shalbim, Beth-Shemesh, and Elobeth-Hanan, Ben-Hesed in Araboth. To him belonged Soko and all the lands of Hefer. Ben-Anadadab in Naphthahdor. He had Tapith, Solomon's daughter, as his wife. Ban-Anan, son of Alahud, and Ta'anak, Megiddo, and all Beth-Shean, which is beside Zareth and below Jezreel, and from Beth-Shean to Abel-Meholah, as far as the other side of Jokmeam. Ben-Gerber and Roth-Gilead. He had villages of Jair, son of Manasseh, which are in Gilead. And he had the region of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities with walls and bronze bars. Anadab, son of Iddu, in Mahanam, Amaz in Naphtali. He had taken Basemath, Solomon's daughter, as his wife. Baana, son of Hushai, and Asher and Baloth. Jehoshaphat, son of Pharuah, in Ishkar. Shimei, son of Elah in Benjamin, Gerber, son of Uri in the land of Gilead, the country of King Shion of the Amorites, and of King Og of Bashan, and there was one official in the land of Judah. Magnificence of Solomon's rule. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand by the sea. They ate and drank and were happy. Solomon was sovereign over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates to the land of the Philistines, even to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provisions for one day was 30 cores of choice flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 fat oxen, 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fatted fowl. For he had dominion over all the regions west of the Euphrates, from Tifsah to Gaza, over all the kings west of Euphrates, and he placed on all sides. During Solomon's lifetime, Judah and Israel lived in safety from Dan even to Beersheba, all of them under vines and fig trees. Solomon also had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. The officials supplied provisions for King Solomon and for all who came to King Solomon's table, each one in his mouth. They let nothing be lacking. They also brought to the required place barley and straw for the horses and swift steeds, each according to his charge. Fame of Solomon's wisdom. God gave Solomon very great wisdom, discernment, and breadth of understanding as vast as the sand on the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Cal, Kol, and Darda, children of Mahol. His family spread through all the surrounding nations. He composed 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He would speak of trees, from the cedar that is in Lebanon to hyssop that grows in the wall. He would speak of animals and birds and reptiles and fish. People came from all the nations to hear the wisdom of Solomon. They came from all the kings of earth who had heard of his wisdom.
Thanks be to God. Okay.
I would like a round of applause for all that name pronouncing, please.
Yeah, you had a lot there.
Thank you.
I don't know.
It wasn't a round of applause, but thanks.
Well, you can add that in. Maybe I missed it. I don't really feel like a lot happened here, but
it was just name listing. They were just letting us know. Well, they definitely let us know who was in charge of the forced labor. And they were just basically, it was just a flex, like, rap song where it's like, I got this, I got that, I got, I got rocks, I got hoes, I got cars.
It just made me feel like, I don't know, like when the president gets first into office, they kind of just give him the tour of the building and let him know where everything is going to be. Like, that's kind of how this felt.
It also kind of reminded me that, like, everything they have is probably stuff David looted. So once again, to me, this isn't great moral instruction. Like, this would just be like how to organize things after you inherit your father's ill-gotten gains and make sure you have someone in charge of the slaves.
Not sure if we brought this up before, but since Solomon is an offspring of David, how do you feel about nepotism?
Well, being an American, what a great question, TK. Being an American, I don't like the idea of sort of hierarchical monarchies, basically. The idea that, I'm just going to pass everything off to my son. I think it's better when you just elect who you might be the best person to be in charge of something. So, I think because I was raised to believe that democracy is better than monarchy, I just have a natural revulsion to this.
Okay, interesting. I just was curious. I had just watched something about nepotism particularly in Hollywood and in the entertainment business. But, yeah.
Yeah, I generally feel like, these types of systems lend themselves to nepotism. Like, I mean, you're literally just everyone's just like supposed to be cool that your son gets everything. Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
I am also not a fan, for the record.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have to earn it, or I don't know, death match or something. uh, um, but all right, moving on to 1 Kings 5, preparations and materials for the temple. Now King Hiram of Tyre sent his servants to Solomon. When he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father, for Hiram had always been a friend to David, Solomon sent word to Hiram saying, "You know that my father David could not build a house for the Hiram. You know that my father David could not build a house for the name of the Lord, his God, because of the warfare with which his enemies surrounded him, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side. There is neither adversary nor misfortune. So I intend to build a house for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord said to my father David, your son, whom I will set on your throne in your place, shall build the house for my name. Therefore, command the cedars from the Lebanon be cut for me. My servants will join your servants, and I will give you whatever wages you set for your servants. For you know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians. Sidonians. Hey. When Hiram, what did you say, Hiram?
It's Hiram.
What is it?
Hiram. I just know it's an old Jewish man's name. You know, like whenever I think of someone named Hiram, I think of like an old Jewish guy.
Oh, okay, that's not racist. When Hiram heard the words of Solomon, he rejoiced greatly and said, "Blessed be the Lord today, who has given to David a wise son to be over this great people." Hiram sent word to Solomon, "I've heard the message that you have sent to me. I will fulfill all your needs in the matter of cedar and cypress timber. My servants shall bring it down to the sea from the Lebanon. I will make it into rafts to go by sea to the place you indicate. I will have them broken up there for you to take away, and you shall meet my needs by providing food for my household." So Hiram supplied Solomon's every need for timber of cedar and cypress. Solomon in turn gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat as food for his household and 20 cores of fine oil. Solomon gave this to Hiram year by year. So the Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he promised him. There was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. King Solomon conscripted forced labor out of all Israel. The levy numbered 30,000 men. He sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts. They would be a month in the Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of the forced labor. Solomon also had 70,000 laborers and 80,000 stonecutters in the hill country, besides Solomon's 3,300 supervisors who were over the work, having charge of the people who did the work. At the king's command, they quarried out great costly stones in order to lay the foundation of the house with dressed stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the Gebalites did the stone cutting and prepared the timber and the stone to build the house. Ooh, thanks be to God.
Well, I gotta say, it is kind of nicer when, the king of Israel works with a neighboring king instead of just invading the area and killing the people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a better look. So in this way, it looks like King Solomon is an improvement on David so far.
He's wiser.
But once again, that is generally what happens when you're able to raise your children with more resources. It sounds like David was kind of a country boy, and Solomon probably grew up a little more with more education and resources, if I had to guess. And it sounds like his mama was a smooth criminal.
Yes. Something I found interesting was the line, King Solomon conscripted forced labor out of all of Israel.
I thought that was interesting too.
Conscripted, because I had to look up because I did not know what the hell that meant. It means
Isn't
to
it wonderful
enlist.
that we can enlist? Yeah. Isn't it wonderful that we can look up words now?
Yes.
Touch of a button, like we don't have to remain in ignorance.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's pretty great.
It's fantastic. What a time to be alive, let me tell you. But yeah, I had to look that up. So basically, King Solomon enlisted forced labor out of all of Israel, which is not. I was unsure about again because I didn't know what the word meant at first. What that meant. So he was basically like, "Get y'all slave asses over here, and we're
Yeah.
gonna."
What's the point of having slaves if you can't let your buddy use your slaves?
That's wild to me.
It is wild. It's not great. Like I said, they're going on and this is a pretty heavy, I feel like, propaganda chapter for, just about how awesome King Solomon was. But me being the uppity negress that I am, I'm never super impressed by dudes who have slaves. Like, I'm usually more impressed by their slaves because that's who's doing all the work.
This makes, for some reason, the image of like when here in the United States, when a slave would, because you could lend out your slaves too, but they would like give them a note so that
Yes.
they could travel without being.
That's why it was super
too
important
harassed.
to not teach the slaves how to read and write, because then they could make their own notes. Or freedom papers even. So yeah, it was really important for a lot of reasons to keep us. That's why, in a lot of places the penalty was death for learning how to read, and the American version of slavery.
So crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But once again, this is why I'm usually so adamant about how I don't think this is a great book and how I don't want to return to these times, because it's usually super bad for people like me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we should return to these times. Unfortunately, I don't think people are going to start reading more because we are at an all-time low of that, at least here in the United States. And things are just getting easier. I mean, like you just said, you can go online and Google whatever you want, and you'll probably
find. You know what people want? A fat ass. I feel like that's what people are mostly Googling.
I want that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a very popular search item. So,
but I don't want it to be I don't want you to have to go get surgery to have it.
There you go. Like, just get calories. Or better yet, like, you don't have to be everything.
Well, I learned that I was just talking about this with somebody. Like, I think when you actually are going to the gym or living a lifestyle where you're taking care of your body, you actually just look better in general. So I don't think it's so much that you necessarily have to have a fat ass. It's just like, are you in physical shape to where somebody is attracted to you?
Well, we've evolved all these characteristics that we value, and usually, like in the animal kingdom, the most sexually desired mates are the ones who seem healthiest. And I think a fat ass kind of indicates like, oh yeah, you're getting enough calories. So, you'll be able to carry on my DNA or whatever. But, generally I agree with you. I think, obviously, if you want to get surgery. But if you think you could be okay without it, maybe try that too. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm just a proponent of people loving themselves. Shit,
but here's
I'm
the
like,
thing about
I did not know.
Looks are kind of like luck. That shit runs out at a certain point. So you always want to make sure that you've got something to back it up. Because I'm a big fan of looking as good as you can. But at the same time, just know that it's a depreciating asset.
I agree. And I got into this conversation slightly at like 2 a.m. about how my viewpoint was particularly how women, beautiful women, are allowed to go through their life without people having to check them. And like, it's surprising to me that, and to other people, like when you meet somebody who is attractive and like, oh, you actually like, or you have more, you know how to have a conversation, you're personable. Shit like that. So kudos to you all.
It's also just a better way to live. Like, if you have like an
absolutely.
Interesting monologue going on in your head, you're not as like, oh, I'm so bored. I always joke, I haven't been bored since the 80s. There's just too much like
when you were a child.
Yeah, basically. Like, I haven't been bored. I mean, since then, there's just been too many things to fill my time with. Like, I don't see it happening.
I don't.
I can't remember the last time seriously, like, I'm never bored.
I don't even think I've used that word in all seriousness in a long time. I agree with you. I don't know if mine has definitely not been since the 80s, but I'm not bored in any shape, form, or fashion these days.
Okay, guys, seriously, I'm about to read chapter 6, but I just have to say I was watching this, like, I guess documentary about Truman Capote, and he was just talking about how the biggest thing that the ultra rich have to contend with is just like how bored they are. And he was like, and they're all boring. So, and they only hang out with each other, so they bore each other silly. So he was just talking about how he was brought into the like ultra elite rich New York society partly because he was entertaining. Like, it would take these really boring functions and make them actually inciting and stuff like that. But then he famously wrote about all their bullshit, so.
I have to check out some Truman Capote, but yes.
If you like reading, you will like his writing. I'll put it that way. 1 Kings 6. Solomon builds the temple. In the 480th year after the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, he began to build the house of the Lord. The house that Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The vestibule in the front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits wide across the width of the house. Its depth was 10 cubits in the front of the house. For the houses he made with windows with recessed frames. He also built a structure against the wall of the house running around the walls of the house, both the nave and the inner sanctuary. And he made side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, the middle one was 6 cubits wide, and the third was 7 cubits wide. For all around the outside of the house he made offsets on the wall in order that the supporting beams should not be inserted into the walls of the house. The house was built with stones finished at the quarry so that neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron was heard in the temple while being built. The entrance for the middle story was on the south side of the house. One went up by the winding stairs to the middle story, and from the middle story to the third. So he built the house and finished it. He roofed the house with beams and planks of cedar. He built the structure against the whole house, each 5 cubits high, and it was joined to the house with timbers of cedar. Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon concerning this house that you are building. If you will walk in my statutes, obey my ordinances, and keep all of my commandments by walking in them, then I will establish my promise with you, which I made to your father David. I will dwell amongst the children of Israel, and I will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house, and he finished it. He lined the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar from the floor of the house to the rafters of the ceiling. He covered them on one side with wood. He covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. He built 20 cubits of the rear of the house with boards of cedar from the floor to the rafters. And he built this within as an inner sanctuary, as the most holy place. The house, that is, the nave in front of the inner sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. The cedar within the house had carvings of gourds and opening flowers. It was cedar, no stone seen. All was cedar, no stone was seen. The inner sanctuary he prepared in the innermost part of the house to set there the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. The interior of the inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid the altar with cedar. Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold. Then he drew chains of gold across in front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. Next, he overlaid the whole house with gold in order that the whole house might be perfect. Even the whole altar that belonged to the inner sanctuary he overlaid with gold. The furnishings of the temple. The inner sanctuary he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. 5 cubits was the length of one wing of the cherub, 5 cubits was the length of the other wing of the cherub. It was 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. The other cherub was also measured 10 cubits. Both cherubim had the same measure of the same form. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was that. Lost spirit. Searching the wall. He also overlaid the cherubim with gold. He put the cherubim in the innermost parts of the house. The wing of the cherubim was spread out so that a wing of one was touching the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub was touching the other wall. Their other wings toward the center of the house were touching wing to wing. He also overlaid the cherubim with gold. He covered the walls of the house all around with carved images of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers in the inner rooms and outer rooms. The floor of the house he overlaid with gold in the inner and outer rooms. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood and lintel, and the doorposts were 5-sided. He covered the 2 doors of olive wood with carvings of cherubims, palm trees, and open flowers. He overlaid them with gold and spread the gold on the cherubim on the palm trees. So he also made the entrance of the nave doorposts olive wood 4 sides each, and 2 doors of cypress wood. The 2 leaves of one door were folding. The 2 leaves of the other door were folding. He carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, overlaid them with gold, evenly applied upon the carved work. He built the inner court with 3 courses of dressed stone, 1 course of cedar beams. In the 4th year of the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid, the month of Ziv. In the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts and according to all its specifications. He was 7 years in building it. Whew, thanks be to God.
Yeah, that was a lot. Oh my gosh. This is one of the, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say this is one of the things that I dread about reading this book. Is it's just a lot of I don't even know if it's technical is the word. It's a lot of
minutia.
Okay.
And I mean, how many times do we have to say cherub, palm trees, and open flowers?
Yeah, it's
But it is probably from a song.
Fair, but I just
like when you read. They say back that ass up.
When you read novels today, like I think it's good to have like world building and description. But I think
people are gonna jump on you now because this is not a novel. This is a historical document.
That's fine. You can jump on me, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like this is not good. Is what I'm getting at. So regardless of how you spin it,
you're just saying this is poorly constructed writing.
Yes. Like it does not keep the reader's interests in the way that I don't know. I guess I would just think that a book that was this so influential would just have better storytelling and structure.
Well, I brought up Truman Capote before, and I mean, he was just an exquisite writer. I wonder what he would say about the Bible, being a good writer. And because, again, that to me is just a clue that this isn't from God, because I just feel like God would do a better job.
I would hope. I mean, he gave us all of our good things about us.
I mean, can I just say he nailed orgasms? He got that right.
Go figure.
I know.
That would be kind of. I mean, not for everyone though, because some people are asexual.
That's true. Sorry, God, I was trying.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Did you have anything else that you took away from that? I mean, again, it was a lot of just explaining about this house that I did not give a fuck about.
I did have some thoughts. I mean, I agree with your point that this wasn't written very well, even if it was from a song. Like, I don't know why we would need to know this. Like I said, it does feel a little bit like a rap song, where it's just like, look at my gold house. And it's tacky, much like a rap song. Like, this isn't an expression of good taste. Like the dwelling they're describing, where he's like, yeah, I built all this stuff in these different types of expensive wood, and then I covered it in gold. Just gold everything. I put gold on the cherubim. I put gold on the floors. I put gold on the doors. Gold, gold, gold. So, yeah, I think it explains why the Vatican looks the way it does. which isn't exactly, for people who purport to be the servants of Jesus Christ. Like, you're living in a gold castle. So, yeah.
You know,
those are my thoughts.
And they didn't. The style is very. I don't know. I guess some of the things are like when I see the Pope dress, I'm like, oh, okay, that's some pretty decent attire. But, and I mean, I watched a video about why the Nazi Party, specifically Hitler's SS people, were so well dressed, and that is like what sticks out in people's minds, even when they think about the best or when they think about war attire. Like, they are always at the top of the list.
It visually tells a story. Like, it makes it really easy to pick out who's on whose team. And I like to remind people, Hitler was Catholic. So yeah, like, that's why it's really dangerous. Like, all of these anti-Jewish sentiments and stuff like that. Even we were talking earlier about how, like, we were taught, at least I'd heard in church settings, that the Jews killed Jesus, even though if you read the story, it's clear the Romans did. They just gave the Jews an out. They'll be like, hey, we were going to kill some people. Do you want to save one of them? And they were like, yeah, let's save Barabbas. We don't know. They might have liked Barabbas. Maybe that was their killer Mike. Jesus had just showed up. So, yeah, they didn't pick Jesus, so they said they try to blame it on the Jews. But it's like the Jews were enslaved by the Romans at this time, so how did they do anything?
Yeah, I just never understood. Like, even just thinking back to elementary school, like, it was explained to me that it was the Roman church, or not church, but Roman, I guess, empire at the time. Mm-hmm. And then it was always confusing to me, even going throughout life. Like, well, how do we get the Jews? Like, it clearly says, like.
Well, where did you hear the Jews did it?
I just feel like that's been thrown around, but I can't like pinpoint a specific time.
It's interesting though that you learned in school though that it wasn't, that you learned that it was, because I didn't learn that in school or in church. Like, I got kind of the opposite message.
Yeah, so I don't know, but I just specifically remember being like, oh, maybe not me, but learning like Pontius Pilate, and that happened during the Roman. They were part of Rome and XYZ. So I was looking back now. I'm like, well, how the fuck did we ever get to this Jew narrative?
Yeah, I remember.
And isn't Jesus Jewish?
Yeah.
Like, which was always like, that's so fucking weird to me. That's like saying
on Passover weekend, like that was the whole thing. He was celebrating Passover with his boys, and then one of his boys turned on him and got him arrested. It's a very relatable story. It's actually downright inspirational if you don't try to make it magic.
Like, that's like a black person killing another black person, and then they be like, the blacks killed them. Like,
that is how they do that shit. Like, that is exactly the playbook still. Like, that's the thing. Like, even if yeah.
I don't know, it just seems weird. Like, he is also Jewish.
Because also, where do you get the phrase black on black violence, which is a total canard, because all violence is mostly interpopulational. Because most people it's not like random acts of violence,
Yeah, you just kill who you're around the most.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no one's trying to commute to their crime. So, yeah. Okay, let's see what we've got coming up next week. Or not next week, just whenever this shit comes out. Like
next time on Bible Breakdown, we will have Solomon's Palace and other buildings.
Cool. So this is the HGTV part of the Bible.
Yes, the good bones. There's dedication to the temple, and then there will be God appearing again to Solomon.
Cool. And yeah. So yeah, this is kind of the technical like stuff of the Bible. Like I said, I'm still not super convinced that this is a holy relic. I think this is it does explain why there are so many negative parts in our society, and I think it's from clinging to this book. Oh my goodness. So like, and I do feel like religious sentiments have been like sort of ramped up more around we live. I feel like every other thing I see on social media is like
Oh,
someone
it's
has
been
to.
ramped up for sure.
It has it. Maybe that's the thing. Like I'm not, I'm not up on things as much, but I do remember see someone post something like Jezebel's spirit is at an all-time high. It's like, girl, I know you're a hoe. Like, why are you doing? Why are you playing into this? Like,
Uh, it's weird. Like even people in the black artist community just
oh, and
are,
let me make it clear. I'm not disparaging hoes. Like, my whole thing is like we should have a safer world for hoes, and that type of rhetoric doesn't do that.
but some people don't even agree with that. Like I brought up the point to my barber about I can't remember how we got on the topic of sexual whatever like stuff, but like I don't know. I had brought up the thing about like sex work and like well, what do you do? I brought this up to a couple people and I still haven't got a solid answer. Like what do you do when
Your
like
son is at home crying all alone on the bedroom floor because he's hungry.
well no, you're like a disabled person. Like should you not be able to enjoy the like sex and stuff like that? I haven't gotten a good answer.
Oh, yeah. I totally think sex work should be legal and safe. I should put it that way. Like, it's like most things, like when you ban it, it just becomes dangerous and hard to regulate. So, yeah,
I'm
and I think that people like should be able to have like we should for one be able to tax it and then have it go into social security because these are just people in our society. Like we shouldn't be
or let's
judging
just
them.
get rid of Social Security and let's get rid of fucking welfare and just have universal basic income.
That's what universal basic income is. It is a form of welfare.
Okay,
Like, so
well,
you could use the pre-existing systems we have and just
just
expand
rebrand
it.
it. Just expand it. Okay.
Well, definitely rebrand it because right now welfare is seen as something extremely negative and bad and something only bad people need. You can thank Ronald Reagan for that one. But yeah, welfare is just something that is, like I said, it's people don't like it because it's a form of socialism, but there are aspects of socialism that are good.
I agree. And capitalism is kind of bullshit. I'm reading
But
Elon
there are
Musk.
aspects of capitalism that are good. Like it does lead to more
Yeah.
innovation. So, like I said, I think having a nice hybrid system, I think people are capable of least the complex thought that we don't have to have strict binaries. I think we were given this false binary of you either like capitalism or you like socialism. It's like, I think I'd like to take some of each and mix it up and have a
I'm
little bit
okay
of
for
fun.
that. I just feel like I was about to say, I'm reading Elon Musk's book, and he's been invested in wanting to go to another planet forever, and it just kind of makes me think like all of that money that you're spending on rockets, you couldn't use to create a system of
Here's the thing.
not
I don't
impoverished
think
people.
I'm not against like space
I
travel
am.
or space
It's no there.
exploration,
We don't. I am when
but I don't
we.
think. Listen, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson said it, where it's like it doesn't have to be this either or proposition. Like we could take care of our people and explore space. Like what we could do is like if you wanted to take money out of like a column, we could take it out of the military. Like all that money we spend on the military, if we put that towards technology and innovation, because like I said, without the space program, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now, which is podcasting. Like a lot of this technology came out of the space program. So there's no reason why we can't feed our people and do space exploration. Once again, I think that's a false binary.
Okay. Well, I think
Because right now
it's like a kid who hasn't cleaned their room, and then they just go in another room, and it's like, no, fix the shit in your room first before you start fucking up somewhere else.
Yes, we have enough resources. We just need the political will. Like I think that's how it's framed. Is like, well, we don't have enough money to do this. Like, yes, you do. Like, there's plenty of, like I said, we got plenty of money to build rockets to blow up Palestinian schools. We have enough money to take care of our people, and like I said, it could just be all of that energy could be directed to build stuff instead of blowing it up.
Yeah, it's interesting how that paradox happens, but
Well, it's because of stuff like the Bible, because they're, that's how they got their bones. It's like, hey, let's go take these people who are the wrong religion. Let's go take their stuff. God's cool with it. He told me when I killed that goat.
Yeah, I don't know. Crazy talk to me, but I'm just a guy in Midwest America.
Yeah. So, everybody, your body belongs to you. Use it to read stuff before you agree to serve it forever.
Be curious, not judgmental. BibleBreakdownPodcast at gmail.com. See you next time.